Hi, I'm Regular Zach, and this is my limited set review for the Edge of Eternities Magic the Gathering set. Today we're talking only about the white cards, so we're going to be going through every single white card, giving it a grade from A to F in the context of limited. So that's draft and sealed. We're not talking constructed, which is standard or commander, things like that. All the grades are going to be A to F, so A's are bombs. These are awesome. They're the best cards in your deck, the ones you show off to your friends. B's are cards that are great. They actively pull you into this color combination, or this color, specifically white. C's are the majority of your deck. They're the bread and butter, cards that you play with a lot, but you don't get too excited about. D's are cards that you hope you don't have to play. They can go in your deck, but you'd rather not have them, and something probably went wrong in the draft if you have too many of these in your deck. And then F's are completely unplayable. These are cards that aren't even made for limited. They only do constructed things, or just they're terrible in this environment, and you should under no circumstances put those cards into your deck. We are starting off with the commons, and the first card is Starport Security. It's a single white for a 1/1 artifact creature robot soldier at common. It has an activated ability. You can pay 3 and a white to tap it to tap another target creature, and this ability costs 2 less to activate if you control a creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. So this is, there's a lot of +1/+1 counters in this set, and this one specifically is a tapper. So a 1 mana tapper that taps for 1 and a blue for tapping other things is fine. Having the colored pip in the tapping ability makes it harder to use, so we don't love that part of it. Getting a +1/+1 counter on creatures is not going to be that difficult, I don't think. But are we going to be obsessed with this card? No. The one thing I'm going to point out is that there are a bunch of cards that do care about not just 1 mana artifacts, but 1 mana creatures. We'll see a couple more of them in white later, so it might make this card go up in stock because of the fact that it is the 1 drop at common. So that will give it more utility. This could be like a C-, but I'm giving this a C. Could be even a C+, depending on the context of if the 1 drop is the most important thing you're going to be doing, because there's going to be a lot of cards that do care about that specific part of this card. Next up, we have Focus Fire, which is a single white for an instant at common. Focus Fire deals X damage to target creature that's attacking or blocking, where X is 2+ the number of creatures and or spacecrafts you control. So it's 1 mana, always deal 2. And then you probably have 1 or 2 creatures out, so it can deal 4, 5, 10. This card seems great. C+ for this thing. 1 mana goes a really long way, I will say, with cards like this. Like, you're super excited if you're able to just get rid of one of their cards for a single white, and you're going to have other creatures in here. So at least it deals 2, but it'll probably deal more than that. Next up, we have Squire's Lightblade, which is a single white for an artifact equipment at common. It has flash, and when this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control. That creature gains first strike until end of turn. Equipped creature gets +1/+0, and equipped cost is 3. So this is like a 1 mana way to... It's a combat trick. We see this in red often enough. In white, it'll be really interesting because white does care about artifacts as well as blue. Blue-red is the real artifacty deck, but it's funny that they put this here, but we have enough white artifacts that I think we will care about it. But in the end, it's still kind of just like a C-level card. I could play this in my deck. It might be, you know what? It's probably closer to like a C-, actually. Not always obsessed with this kind of thing, but will be playable. 1 copy. Next up, we have Starfighter Pilot. Is 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature human pilot at common. It says whenever this creature becomes tapped, you get to surveil 1. So every time you attack, you get to surveil 1, or every time you're stationing one of your spacecrafts, you get to surveil 1. Surveilling is pretty sweet, and especially if you're just like attacking and looking for non-land cards, that could be awesome, or land cards, but either one. Seems like a really solid 2-drop. I'd be happy to put this card in my deck. It's a C. Yeah. Good. Next up, we have Dockworker Drone, which is 1 and a white for a 1/1 artifact creature robot at common. It says this creature enters with a +1/+1 counter on it. When this creature dies, put its counters on target creature you control. So it has modular. This is a 2 mana 2/2 artifact that you get to move the counters around. Will be pretty helpful. I don't think it's going to be phenomenal, though. It might be a little bit of a workhorse, which really just feels like a C-level card. Totally fine. Yeah, will be annoying. Next up, we have Bright Spear Zealot, which is 2 and a white for a 2/4 creature human soldier, common, as Vigilance. It says this creature gets +2/+0 as long as you've cast 2 or more spells this turn. All right, okay. There's a couple cards that look similar to this in all the different colors that proc off of different things. This one seems perfectly fine. Double spelling is nice. A 3-mana 2/4 Vigilance is kind of annoying. I'll give this like another C. All these white creatures seem to be kind of fine. You will double spell in every deck, so it's not like you need to be in the white-blue deck for this to actually do anything. But it's not fantastic, and I don't think I'm going to pick this very highly. But the Vigilance, it does go a long way with that 4 toughness, I think. Next up, we have Banishing Light. Easy. 2 and a white for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. B- for this card. It hits everything. It's only sorcery speed, obviously, but great card. Removes a bunch of stuff. Probably the best white common of the set. So if you see these flying around, probably pick them up. Next up, we have Zealous Display, which is 2 and a white for an instant, a common. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. If it's not your turn, untap those creatures. Interesting. So either we're attacking and dealing a bunch of damage, or we attacked, our opponent let some stuff through, and then they're trying to crack back and we get to untap and trade with a bunch of stuff. Or we tapped a bunch of our creatures to station our spacecraft, and then our opponent was like, sweet, free damage, let's attack. And then you untap and you get to block a bunch of stuff and surprise them. So there's a bunch of interesting stuff that can go on with this card. I don't think it's going to be phenomenal, though. It's still, like, a lot of the combat tricks in this set are good in aggressive ways and defensive ways. We've seen it all across all the different colors. And this card is no exception. So it does seem playable. It's like a Trumpet Blast that you can play on your opponent's turn, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to give this a C. Like, definitely playable, where oftentimes you can't always play these cards. So yeah, also just if you're aggressive, this just kills them. So awesome. C for the Zealous Display. Next up, we have Exosuit Savior, which is 2 and a white for a 2/2 creature human soldier common. It has flying. It says when this creature enters, return up to one other target permanent you control to its owner's hand. This one's kind of funny because it says Savior, but you can't flash it in to save your creature from a removal spell. So is it really a savior? It just seems like I'm going to pick up my artifact that draws a card and recast it. Or I'm going to pick up my creature that makes a token to recast it. So that it seems fine. It seems fine. I think it's probably like a C-. It doesn't get that added utility of saving your creature, which is the part that I thought would be most important. So it just kind of looks like a Windrake that might have a little bit of upside. And Windrakes are not necessarily good enough unless they bring something with them or if they die into something. So not obsessed with this card. C-. You can still play it, but it might even be worse than that. Next up is Flight Deck Coordinator. It's 2 and a white for a 3/3 creature human soldier at common. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more tapped creatures, you gain 2 life. This is probably like a... It also feels like a C- or like a D+. Like the white-red deck cares about having 2 creatures that are tapped at the end of your turn. It can be difficult because if you're attacking with a bunch of creatures, they'll trade off with stuff and then you won't have 2 tapped creatures. You had it during your turn, but not at your end step. And so it kind of makes you want to tap your creatures for stationing things. I guess this one does help because if you're stationing stuff and you're tapping your creatures, you need life because your opponent's going to be attacking you. So it's also good on rate. It's a 3-mana 3/3, so this is perfectly fine. C- though. I don't know if I like the 2 tapped creatures thing. Next up is Lux Knight Breacher, which is a sweet looking card. 3 and a white for a 2/2 creature human knight at common. This creature enters with a +1/+1 counter on it for each other creature and or artifact you control. When I said it was a sweet looking card, I meant like it's sweet as in like the art looks really cool. I don't think that the actual card is any good. Like having to have creatures on the battlefield with this, at least it's a 4-mana 2/2 baseline. Because sometimes we get cards like this and they're 0/0s and you're like, well, this is useless. So it's a little bit better than that, but I don't think it's very good. I probably don't want to put this in my deck at all, actually. This is like a D. I'm not obsessed. It doesn't have a keyword or anything, and it could just be big and dumb and just not. And if you don't have a board, it sucks. So a D. Next up, we have Radiant Strike, which is 3 and a white for an instant at common. Destroy target artifact or tapped creature. You gain 3 life. Sweet. Radiant Strike seems good enough, like a C to a C+. 4 mana is a lot. And it has to be a tapped creature. You do get to do it at instant speed, though. And you do gain 3 life. So let's just say this is like a C+, because it is weird that it has to be tapped. So if there's any vigilant stuff, you're just kind of screwed. But yeah, it's nice enough. It'll fit in your deck, but you'd rather have Banishing Light. Next up is Knight Luminary, which is 3 and a white for a creature human knight. It's a 3/2. It says when this creature enters, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. So for 4 mana, you get a 3/2 and a 1/1. It also has warp for 1 and a white. So you can warp it on turn 2, make a 1/1. Turn 4, play it, make another 1/1. All that stuff is nice. Yeah, I like that a lot. Seems pretty sweet. And this is a deck that does care about tapping creatures. So this brings a creature with you. They could both station something. So maybe we really need stations in the red-white deck to be able to like play this, station it, it warps away. That is great. And it'll trigger all your stuff. So C+ for the Luminary. I like getting a piece of the cardboard. Those were very nice. Next up, we have Auxiliary Boosters, which is 4 and a white for an artifact equipment. It says when this equipment enters, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token and attach this equipment to it. Equipped creature gets +1/+2 and has flying. And it equips for 3. So this is a 5 mana 3/4 flyer. And it moves the equipment around. Okay. Cool boosters. I like that it leaves the equipment around. It's probably just a C, though. It has, like, pseudo job select. It has, like, 4 Mirrodin, basically. It does make 2 pieces of cardboard, which they're both artifacts, so that will proc a bunch of stuff. And giving your creatures flying for 3 mana later could be pretty good. But it does feel big and clunky. So C. Definitely playable, but not crazy great. Next up, we have Weft Blade Enhancer, which is 5 and a white for a 3/4 creature Drix Artificer. It's a common. When this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, and you can warp it for 2 and a white. This kind of seems like a C- to a D range. Warping it out, getting the counters on stuff can be nice, and then playing it later, putting more counters on other stuff. If you put both of the counters on itself, you just get like a 6 mana, what is that, 5/6? Just kind of meh. So you really want to spread them around, and you really want to warp it early. So with that, I think it's like a C- to like a D. Could just be a D. Doesn't seem very exciting, honestly. Sometimes let's just give this a D. I'm not in love. I like that it has warp, it's helpful, but I'm not obsessed with this card at all. Move on to the uncommons. We have Seam Rip, which is a single white for an enchantment. When this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls with mana value 2 or less until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. Sweet. This is good. Definitely keeps you alive when you're worried about dying early. And Portable Hole was a great card. It does basically exactly the same thing. So this is like a C+. Doesn't crack the B range because it, 2 mana. If it hit 3, it would be different. If we had the Glass Casket effect, is much better. But we will take the 1 mana thing. Pretty nice. Next up, we have Reroute Systems, which is a single white for an instant at uncommon. It says choose 1. Target artifact or creature gains indestructible until end of turn, and Reroute Systems deals 2 damage to target tapped creature. So you can do either one of those things. Protect your thing or kill your opponent's thing. I really like this ability right here. I am going to give this a B-. I love effects that give my creatures indestructible, and the added flexibility of, well, I don't need to protect my thing right now. I'm just going to kill one of your tapped creatures, something small. 1 mana goes a really long way. This has a lot of stuff. I want one of these in all my white decks, for sure. I'm obsessed with this. Next up, we have Honor, which is a single white for a sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Draw a card. Cool. Yeah. Helps you double spell, puts counters on things. Any deck will be like, sure, I'll throw a white at it. Yeah, it's like a C. I would play this card. Nothing too exciting with it, but white blue likes to play it. Putting counters on flyers would be nice. White green likes to play it because they want counters. Yeah, cool. Next up, we have Sunstar Expansionist, which is 1 and a white for a 2/3 creature human knight at uncommon. It says when this creature enters, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a lander token. A lander token is an artifact where you can pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice the token, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tapped, then shuffle. So you get to ramp if your opponent has more lands than you. Very white thing to do. It also has landfall. It says whenever a land you control enters, this creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So this is really just a 2-mana 3/3 that sometimes draws you a land and puts it right on the battlefield. Like, what? This is like C+, B- territory? I'm going to give it a C+ because you don't always draw the card, but if you do, oh, baby, we happy. We happy with that. Attack it on turn 3 with a 3/3. Forget about it. This is great. Sunstar Expansionist. C+ into B- maybe. Maybe we should just, you know what? Let's just say it. We're gonna give it this a B-. I'm obsessed. I like it a lot. This little Chocobo variant is great. So Sunstar Expansionist gets a B-. Honored Knight Captain or Honored Knight Captain, depending on who you are. 1 and white for a 1/1 creature human advisor knight at uncommon. When this creature enters, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. And that's all it does. That's it. That's the ability of the card. It's yeah, that's nice. Just kidding. It does have an ability. You can pay 4 white to sacrifice this creature. Search your library for an equipment card. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. No. Nope. Don't really think that that's great. Like maybe you play this with that auxiliary booster so that you get to play like you get your whatever creature, your 3/4 whatever. But that doesn't seem very good. It would be nice to have an equipment card in your deck for that ability, but ultimately I think just having a 2-mana 1/1 that makes another 1/1 is good enough. That's like a nice like C-level card. You would like to have multiple bodies. It's just the don't be excited about the equipment part. That's not, I would not care about that very much. It's just perfectly fine by itself. Next up, we have Pulsar Squadron Ace, 1 and a white for a 1/2 creature human pilot at uncommon. It says when this creature enters, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a spacecraft card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If you didn't put a card into your hand this way, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So another 2-mana 2/3, and that's it. I don't know. If you draw your spacecraft, that's great. That, you know, your 2-mana play drew you a card. I don't know how many spacecrafts we want to play in the end. I know I talk about them often, but there's none of them that I'm really excited about. I'm not stoked on these spacecrafts in general. They'll probably be more important than I'm giving them credit for, but I just don't really like the spacecraft thing altogether. It just seems, they seem bad. So I think this is like a C-. If you draw a card, it's much better. You know what? Actually, I'm going to give this like a D+. And then if you draw a card, then it goes to the C range. But I don't really like it, and I don't want to have to put spacecrafts into my deck. I just don't want to do it. Next up, we have Dual Sun Technique. It's 1 and white for an instant at uncommon. Target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. If it has a +1/+1 counter on it, you draw a card. So green-white really wants this. Sick. We rarely get combat tricks that give us double strike and ones that draw us cards. I don't know. This seems pretty sweet. Yes. Combat trick that draws me a card and gives double strike. I'm going to give this like a C+. I'm actually interested in this a lot. And yeah, baby. Green, white. Let's get it. Let's go. Next up, we have Rayblade Trooper, which is 2 and white for a 2/2 creature human soldier at uncommon. It says when this creature enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and whenever a non-token creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token, and you can warp it for 1 and a white. So you warp it in, put a counter on something, attack with it. If they block and they trade or whatever, you get a 1/1, and then you play this later, get another counter on something or counter on this. So it's a 3-mana 3/3 at its base that when it dies, you get to make a token. That all sounds great to me, baby. Like C+. Like, yeah, good stuff right there. Nice. Another card that goes in the counters deck. I feel like there's a lot of cards that go into that green-white deck. Very exciting. Next up, we have Dual Sun Adepts. It's 2 and a white for a 2/2 creature human soldier at uncommon. It has double strike just naturally. And for 5 mana, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it's a 3/3 double strike. Cool. For 3 mana in this spot, it's a little bit weak. I know the double strike helps it a bit, but you're probably just going to have to trade it off. It will trade up, but is that enough? I'm probably just going to say that this is like a C minus. No, I think that extra ability just keeps it at a C. I'm not obsessed with it. I do love double strike, but this is like maybe part of the curve topper of a really low aggressive deck that makes a bunch of tokens, and then you just get to pump your creatures. Yeah, so like a C for this card. Next up, we have Scout for Survivors. This is what I was talking about at the beginning of the video. It's 2 and a white for a sorcery at uncommon. Return up to 3 target creature cards with total mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of them. So most likely what's going to happen is that you play 1-drop, 2-drop, attack with some stuff. You probably play this card in turn 5 or 6, but you want to get back a 1-drop and a 2-drop. You could get back 1 3-drop and put a counter on it, but I think 2 bodies for this card we'd be much more interested in. And that's why we're kind of looking at some of these like that tapper and stuff. And when you bring the tapper back, you do put a +1/+1 counter on it and something else. So then you do tap for cheaper. So this is one of those cards where it's like, okay, having 1-drops in my deck will be important if I'm playing something like Scout for Survivors. However, maybe we just don't want to play this card at all and we don't have to worry about it. But in general, I do like this reanimation spell for the white decks where you're like, let's attack a lot, and then we get some of our creatures back and they get stronger. So Scout for Survivors, I'm going to give like a C minus, C minus. I think we do want to, like, I would play this card in super aggressive decks. Obviously it doesn't fit in everything, but this type of card I do enjoy. So not going to go much higher than that, but does make me think about the 1-drops a little bit more. Next up, we have Emergency Eject, which is 2 and a white for an instant. Destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a lander token. Okay. Sweet. So lander tokens are awesome. I do like to have them myself. I don't really want to give them to my opponent, but I think that spending 3 mana to destroy one of our opponent's creatures or anything that they have, give them a lander token, that's not actually that big a deal. Like, giving them a clue token would suck. Ramping them, obviously, we don't want to do, but they have to spend 2 mana to do it. Like, if we thought about this card as if it was like Path to Exile. So, Path to Exile is 1 mana and you exile something, and then they get a land just to the battlefield. But this card costs 3 mana, so we spend 2 extra mana, and then they only get a land if they spend 2 mana. So, both of us are spending more mana in that exchange, which makes me like it a bit more. And it's instant speed, it destroys anything. And the biggest thing with cards like this, oftentimes we'll see like 3 mana destroy target creature or destroy target non-land permanent, give them a 1/1, right? And that does have power. Like a 1/1 can kill you, while a lander token can't kill you, right? If you give them like a 1/1 flyer, you're like, that's horrible. That's so bad. This significantly better. So I would play this card. I think it can perform at like a B- level. So I am interested in actually playing this. And I do think landers are strong, but I don't think that this is going to be so bad to give them one. You know what I mean? So I know there's another card in green that gives your opponent a lander token that I liked a little bit less, but that was a different situation. I think that we get more value out of this than our opponent does. So, yeah, I like this card. B-. Next up, we have Sunstar Lightsmith, which is 3 and a white for a 3/3 creature human artificer at uncommon. It says whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature and draw a card. What, buddy? That's what we're talking about. Okay, here we go. B right here, folks. This is what we want. The +1/+1 counter on it is helpful, but the draw a card, that's what fuels your deck. You play this card, you play a 1-drop, bing, bang, boom, you draw another card, then you have more cards to double spell again, to draw more cards, to make this creature bigger, to keep going, and to keep it going, and to keep it going. Yes. B-level card right here, Sunstar Lightsmith. Really nice. Next up, we have All Fate's Stalker, which is 3 and a white for a 2/3 creature Drix Assassin. It's an uncommon. It says when this creature enters, exile up to 1 target non-assassin creature until this creature leaves the battlefield. So obviously it can't hit itself or other versions of it. It also has warp for 1 and a white. So you could exile your own thing, and then it'll come back at the end step. So you could like... I know I say station all the time, and I know I talk about the spacecrafts and how I don't like the spacecrafts, but you could station something, warp this in, exile your creature, station the thing with this one. This leaves, that one comes back. You get the ETB all over again. Then this comes back in, you steal one of your opponent's things because now it's going to stick around for a while. You could also just like warp in to get rid of one of your opponent's creatures for the turn, then you attack in with it. There's a lot of stuff that goes around with this card. And it is just a removal spell on a creature. It is probably like a B- in that sense because creatures are very vulnerable. So be wary of what you're getting rid of. But it is good. It is a good card. It is strong, and I like it. Next up, we have Wedgelight Rammer, which is 3 and a white for a 3/4 artifact spacecraft at uncommon. It says, when the spacecraft enters, create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token. So 4 mana for a 2/2, and then if you get 9 station counters, or sorry, charge counters on this, it becomes a 3/4 flying first strike creature. It is 2 artifacts entering the battlefield, so that is something. But it's just so expensive to get something that's so sad. I'm just going to say this is a D. I don't like station, man. I just don't like it. I think I'm rating all the station cards really, really bad. Like Spacecrafts are just so low on my list of things that I like. And they'll probably perform better than that, but I don't like them right now. So D for this stupid Spacecraft. It's 4 mana for a 2/2, which is not good enough. Next up, we have Starfield Shepherd, which is 3 white for a 3/2 creature angel at uncommon. It has flying. It says when this creature enters, search your library for a basic plains card or a creature with mana value 1 or less. Hey, there's our tapper again. Put it into your hand, then shuffle. You can also warp this for 1 and a white to do that. So on turn 2, you're like, I need a plains next turn. I'll warp, go get my land. Or I just need a creature or something. Warp, go get that creature. Very sweet. You draw 2 cards with this. This card seems awesome. This is like a B level card, maybe even a B+. I'm very happy to be fixing my lands and getting my stuff early. Having a bunch of these will be very useful in your deck. Just make sure you have some 1 mana creatures to go get with it. So yeah, nice. But this is another reason you should play like 1 mana creatures. Look out for them. They're pretty sweet. There's a cool one in black. Anyway. Next up, we have Dawnstrike Vanguard, which is 5 and a white for a 4/5 creature human knight at uncommon. It has lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more tapped creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control other than this creature. The other than this creature part is so bizarre to me, but okay. This is definitely a payoff for being able to tap your creatures and have them survive. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And this has lifelink. It is pretty expensive, though. So it's probably, you know, is this the huge payoff that you want to be playing? Maybe. I'd really like the warp ones a little bit better. And this wants you to have a bunch of creatures still by turn 6 when you have it and keep them around and they're tapped. I wonder if the station cards are just going to be helpful to make sure you can tap 2 creatures to trigger all your cards. That's basically what the red-white deck wants to do. So maybe some of those will actually come in handy. But this is definitely a payoff for that. Definitely a payoff. But probably still like a C level card. It could be a C-, trending towards even D. No, I think it's too powerful for that. Lifelink is great. So it is just like a C though. I don't get too excited by this card. Next up, we have Rescue Skiff, which is 5 and a white for a spacecraft. It says, when this spacecraft enters, return target creature or an enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay, here we go. 6 mana reanimate spell. I can get behind that. Also gets a Banishing Light. Pretty interesting. Stations for 10 more charge counters. It's a 5/6 with flying. But the reanimate is really nice. It's only 1 mana more than what you would expect in black, which is 5 mana. And it's an artifact that enters and gets something else and goes straight to the battlefield. All those things are pretty interesting. This would be a bit more exciting, but it's still so expensive. I still think this is probably just like a C, but you do get a card back, so that's nice. But C for the Rescue Skiff. Spacecraft that I think is actually worth playing. Next up, we have Lightstall Inquisitor. It's a rare. We're on to the rares. We have a single white for a 2/1 Creature Angel Wizard. It has Vigilance, and when this creature enters, each opponent exiles a card from their hand and may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Each spell cast this way costs 1 more to cast, and each land played this way enters tapped. That's pretty cool. What a Savannah Lines if I've ever seen one myself. Cool. This card seems sweet. It seems really annoying for your opponent the turn that you play it, or maybe even later in the game it can screw up some stuff. Having Vigilance is nice. This holds counters really well. Gonna give this like a C+. Nothing to jump for joy over. Not gonna first pick this card, but it's nice and aggressive and does some cool things. Much more exciting and constructed. Way more exciting and constructed. But in draft, you can play this card. It's even nice. Next up is Hardlight Containment, another card that looks way better and constructed. This is a single white for an enchantment aura rare. Enchant artifacts you control. Okay. When this enchantment enters, exile target creature and opponent controls until this aura leaves the battlefield. An enchanted permanent has Ward 1. So for this, you probably want to put this on your spacecraft or one of your well, hopefully not a lander token, but some artifact that's not a creature that you are okay just having there sit there. It could be a lander token in a pinch, but you'd be upset because you can't sacrifice your lander token unless you want to give it back their creature, but that's okay. But that's the hard part about this card. It doesn't get to the B range. It does hit everything, but you have to have an artifact, and your opponent could blow up the artifact or something in response or afterwards to get their thing back. So that's kind of annoying. But giving your spacecraft +1 seems... Or sorry, not +1. Giving your spacecraft Ward 1 would be something, maybe. But then you wouldn't really want to make it huge and then you're like turn it into a creature, your opponent just kills it. It does feel like you would put this on that kind of card though. So in the end, this is probably just like a C+. It does get rid of your opponent's stuff, but it's, there's a lot of setup cost to it. Next up is Sunstar Chaplain. It's 1 and white for a 3/2 creature human cleric at rare. It says at the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more tapped creatures, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and you can pay 2 and remove a +1/+1 counter from target creature you control to tap target artifact or creature. Interesting. Sure. This does get, you get to put counters around, which is kind of nice. And a 2-mana 3/2 in aggressive decks does seem sweet. It still has that problem of like, I don't know if I'm going to have 2 creatures that are tapped at the end of the turn. I need to make sure I have a bunch of like removal spells to make sure that my creatures stay alive. And being able to tap your opponent's creatures is pretty interesting. Just to remove counters to tap them down so that, I guess you can tap down your opponent's creatures so that you get to attack and get more counters, but you're removing counters to do that. So I don't know how useful that is. Yeah, I like this. I still think it's like a C+. I don't know if it's like really cracking into the B range. Yeah, seems cool. C+ for the Sunstar Chaplain. Next up, we have Lumenclass Frigate. Frigate. It's 1 and a white for a spacecraft that does nothing when it enters. Though, all you have to do is tap like a 2-drop, basically a 2-power creature, and it's an anthem. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. So that is pretty great, actually. A lot of anthems are 3 mana, and this one's only 2. You just have to make sure you help station it. And then if you get 10 more counters, so 12 total, it becomes a 3/5 with flying and lifelink and still pumps up your team. This is something I can get behind. This is just like an enchantment that you have to do a little bit of work with your creatures to get going. And then if you're at a certain point in the game, you do just get to make a flying lifelink creature, which could be helpful. But the Anthem part is great. I'm going to give this like a B-. It's actually a spacecraft I like. Wow, look at that. Who knew? Who knew I could like one of these? Yeah, turns out it just had to be an Anthem, so you just want to go wide anyway. Next up is Halia, Guided by Light. It's 2 and a white for a 3/3 legendary creature, human soldier at rare. It says whenever Halia or another creature or artifact you control enters, you gain 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card if you gained 3 or more life this turn. So this is it also has warp for a single white. So this is a soul sister that also procs off of artifacts, which is pretty sweet, and itself, which is also pretty sweet. So you could just warp this in and then play, like on turn 3, you can warp this in and then play that card that makes a 1/1 and another 1/1, or anything that makes like itself and an artifact. You gain 3 life, you get to draw a card. Amazing. That's awesome. This card seems super sweet. In aggressive decks, this is like an A, not an A, sorry. This is like a B+. Because it doesn't just like win by itself. You do need to play a bunch of other cards around it, but no, let's just give it a B+. It's not really strong enough to take over the whole game, but it is going to draw a bunch of cards, and it is quite strong. So I'm really happy with Halia. Sweet. Cool card. Next up, we have Pinnacle Star Cage. It's 1 white for an artifact at rare. When this artifact enters, exile all artifacts and creatures with mana value 2 or less until this artifact leaves the battlefield, and then it has an activated ability where it can pay 6 white. Put each card exiled with this artifact into its owner's graveyard, then create a 2/2 colorless robot artifact creature token for each card put into a graveyard this way. Sacrifice this artifact. This card is seeded here specifically because in Dominaria United there was a card called Temporary Lockdown. That's what it's called, and it does basically the same thing. It's an enchantment, and that is rotating out of standard. So this card is replacing it. This is not something we really want to play in draft. Temporary Lockdown was horrible in its draft format. This also looks pretty bad. I don't think you should play this at all. This is an F. Even with the 8 mana thing or whatever, I don't think it's really worth it. Put this in your standard deck, but do not put this in your draft deck. F for the Pinnacle Star Cage. Next up, we have the Serema, which is 1 white for a legendary artifact spacecraft at rare. It says when the Serema enters, search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle, and station for 7 or more. It becomes a 5/5 flying creature, and it says other tapped legendary creatures you control have indestructible. So if you have a bunch of legendaries that, taps to station this thing, your opponent can't kill them that turn, and then you can also, when you attack with your legendary creatures, then they don't die. You would probably need 2 or 3 legendary creatures in your deck before you're interested in playing this card, but it's also like double white. So that is hard to cast. This looks much more like a constructed thing where you have a bunch of legendary creatures. So I'm going to give this like a D. I don't think we want to play this in limited. Pretty upsetting. But yeah, I don't think we have enough legendary creatures in the set to care about it. Sorry. I don't want to play you. Next up, we have Aelli Reclaimer. It's 3 white for a 5/4 creature angel warrior at rare. It has flying. It says when this creature enters, return target non-creature, non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast this creature. It also has warp for 2 and a white. So either you get a 3 mana value thing that's a non-creature, non-land, or a 5 mana thing, or less, or whatever. Kind of cool. You could get your Banishing Lights. You can get some artifacts that maybe made it to the graveyard or some different stuff. I think there's flexibility here. Also, it's just a 5/4 flying body, which goes a long way. So this is, there's something to this. I think I'm just going to give it a B, but if you can like realistically draw cards off of it and return stuff to your battlefield, then you're definitely going into the A range. Like 3 mana draw a card, 5 mana draw a card. That's crazy. That's so good. So I'm going to give this like a B, could be a B+ depending, or an A if you can do this over and over again. So Depends on the deck, a little bit of a build around, but B for this card. Last rare is Beyond the Quiet, which is 3 white for a sorcery at rare. Exile all creatures and spacecraft. Exile them all. They get sucked into the black hole right there. Damn. That is noise. I'm going to give this an A- because board wipes are strong and limited. You never see them coming. There are actually quite a few board wipes in the set, so maybe we'll have to keep in mind. I think it's like we're moving on like 5 or 6 board wipes, so we might actually have to play around some of these because they're much more common than we usually are used to. But this card's great. Starting the draft off with a I don't know, board wipe always seems great to me. I like them. And the exile part is pretty crazy though. It will be hard for you to it'll be hard for you to be able to make a situation where we had some white cards that would bring your creatures back, so this kind of goes against that. Maybe it knocks it down a little bit, but I'm still going to keep this an A- for this board wipe. Yes, very nice. Next up, we have the Mythics, which is Cosmo Grand Zenith, which is 2 and a white for a 2/4 creature human soldier at Mythic. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, choose one. Create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. What the hell is this? A+, buddy. What the heck? This thing is crazy. We're going to be double spelling as much as humanly possible, playing a bunch of little dudes. This is amazing curve topper. You build a board, you put counters on stuff. This is insane. This card's awesome. I like this so much. Yes, I like it a lot. So cool. Probably want to wait and make sure I can play this and then, trigger it immediately afterwards, but whatever. That's fine. Killer card. A+. Next up, we have Exalted Sunborn, which is 3 white for a 4/5 creature angel wizard at Mythic. It has flying and lifelink. It says if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. And it has warp for 1 and a white. It's weird when a Mythic isn't like stellar. I think this one, we can be in a situation, there's a lot of tokens running around. I think white-blue would be interested in this. White-green if you're making a bunch of lander tokens. But the warp part of this one is kind of bizarre. Maybe on turn 4 you warp this and the creature that makes a 1/1, and then on turn 5 you get to play it and do some more stuff. But in the end, this really feels like a 5-mana 4/5 flying lifelink, which is good. That's strong and hard to deal with. And then you get some stuff with the tokens. So I'm just going to give this like a B. B for body, but not... maybe don't take this early and try to do a whole token thing, because I don't know if that's going to happen. There's a possibility it could, but not nearly as exciting as the last one. I mean, both of this card and the last card together would be great, but that's probably not going to happen. Anyway, folks, those are all the base cards from the set. I do have 2 more cards to talk about. They are on the special guests sheet, which do go in play boosters, so that it does matter. And they look like this. Our first card is Deafening Silence. It's got the sweet old 50s book vibe to it. It is a single white for an enchantment. It says each player can't cast more than 1 non-creature spell each turn. I don't think we want to play this card. I don't think we're super worried about non-creature spells going off. This looks like a sideboard card for Constructed, which means this is an F. Don't play Deafening Silence. Looks really cool. Maybe take it if you're in a draft and you're like, oh, that's awesome art or whatever. But don't put it in your deck. Deafening Silence, F. F, 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 F. Next up, we have Robe of Stars, which is 1 and a white for an equipment. It's an artifact, obviously. It says equipped creature gets +0/+3, and it has Astral Protection, which is 1 and a white, equipped creature phases out, and the equip cost is 1. Kind of interesting. If you have a card that you really care about making sure that it doesn't die, you can phase it out and phase it back in and do all that fun jazz. But ultimately, this is like a C- level card. I don't know if there's that many big cards that you care about actually protecting. But if you do have a big bomb that you want to protect, this is a way to do it. Much more of a different format kind of card. You know what? As I'm talking about this, I think you shouldn't actually play this card at all. This is like a D. Yeah, it's just so much mana for something that we're just not really that interested in, and your opponent's not going to try to target it when you have the phase out ability up. So like, what's even the point? Yeah, it's just going to be a waste of time. It looks really cool though. I like the art style for these for sure, but a lot of them are not playable in draft, so just keep that in mind when you see that cool art style. But anyway, folks, that has been all my thoughts on all the white cards for Edge of Eternities. Tell me what you think in the comments below. If I was right, if I was wrong, if you have no idea and you just want to say, hey, please give me a comment. I would like to talk to you. But anyway, folks, until next time, bye.